Hello and welcome to Musing. My name is Craig Seibert, and today I will be joined by my brother George Seibert. We love to talk about music. We're passionate about it, and it's a big part of our lives. Every once in a while we have these conversations, and we thought we'd just like to share those with you. So if you love music, sit back and enjoy this podcast. Okay, welcome to episode 7 of Musing. I got my brother on the line.
How are we doing?
Good. We're on Christmas Eve. So we're kind of recording, trying to get it out there before Christmas to give you guys a present. Today's episode is actually going to be a gift of sound. We're going to introduce you to some bands that we've been listening to most of our lives that people have probably never heard of. I'd say I think there's probably 2 on my list that nobody's ever heard of. If they have, I'd be shocked. Maybe within our group, but and it's not one-hit wonders. It's actually bands that we kind of listen to the whole album, or if they've got a couple albums, we listen to actually most of the songs off those albums. So you'll hear some bands in here that are kind of, they had a one-hit, they had a song on the radio, but we kind of listen to all of their stuff, not just one little thing.
And some of them are more recent. Some of them aren't our whole lives. Some of them are, just
true
bands that I mean, just by length of length of career. But they're a lot of it's. I mean, a lot of mine was mid '90s ish, or I mean, I'd say early '90s through now. But when I was forming my musical chops, it was definitely, I mean, when you grew up, it was that genre, the mid-late 80s through now. But so that's dating myself and our time frame, I guess. But
well, I think it's good to point that out, because I would say probably 75% of mine fall from around that era too. But I know we've kind of alluded to it before, and I've even said it before, that I played in a local band in Tampa, Florida. So when I was starting out, we were playing acoustic. The singer and I would go to small clubs and do open mic and stuff. And some of those clubs are where I found one of these bands that I'm going to mention. But I think that's, we were into music at that time because I was heavily into it at that point.
Sure.
And it was kind of your therapy at that time too.
100%. No, it was definitely.
So,
and
but go ahead.
No, you fire away if you want to start.
Yeah,
this week,
I'm again. It's going to be a kind of a Christmas present to everybody, because we've been listening to these for years, and some people might have heard of them, but
and that's okay.
No, it is. It is.
I feel like we have to preface this. This is our opinion, and this is. I mean, like, I've heard those. I listen to that band all the time. No, it's not about that. This is about, I mean, new listeners or people that listen all the time that that are kind of on the same wavelength. Maybe listen to a different tone, different genre or whatever. You might pick up something that's a little heavier or a little lighter. You never know. And if you sample one of these bands, or maybe one of the songs that we give you, it might turn you on to some really good music and lead you further on down the path even.
Yeah, and it's a good point. I actually forgot to say that on the blog post, I'm going to go ahead and post a lot of links to some of the videos or songs and stuff that we've got. But at a suggestion from a friend of mine from another podcast, Mike Simmons, he does Catalyst Sale podcast. He actually suggested doing a Spotify list. And I'm not a huge Spotify person, but I dove into it, and there is actually a lot of the bands that I listen to, even a very local band to Tampa that was actually on there as well. So I'm going to kind of share a Spotify list once I get my brother's stuff set up in there.
Yeah, if their demo CD is actually on there, that's pretty impressive.
I know, it was. But it was a full CD. I mean, it had 10 or 12 songs on it. But let's see. I'll start off. Hum is a band that I've listened to for since they came out. Their big hit was obviously Stars. That opening line, I think she missed a train to Mars, out back counting stars, is just it's iconic. It's part of the '90s, but that was like the only big hit they really had. Although they still tour a lot. I've seen videos of them actually playing up until like 2012.
I'm almost positive they were just here in Tampa with.
Oh, really?
With
That's funny.
The Toadies.
Well, and Toadies, I think, got a lot more
radio
accolades.
Play. Yeah,
a lot more radio play.
Yeah.
But Hum for me is, Stars is, yes, a great song, and I love when that first hit comes in, but for me to dig into them and to listen to all their stuff, Pinch and Roll is another amazing song by them. Ironclad Lou. I'm putting a lot of the stuff on the Spotify list, but they had a sound that was part in the rock and part in grunge. And honestly, if you listen to them, if you just sit down and listen to them, it's hard to hear bands like Chevelle or Limp Bizkit and not think that this was the precursor to them, that these guys were making sounds that sound like those bands, and those bands got popular off that sound.
Absolutely. And some of this, I guess I feel the need, some of the bands that Craig's going to mention and some of them that I'm going to mention, I haven't heard some of the, I've never listened to some of the bands that he's sold on, and vice versa. I mean, we are very, I'd say, for lack of a better pun, we are very in tune as far as musical likes and dislikes. I mean, there's obvious dissension, but we're pretty close, and we've, over the years, we have passed that back and forth. Hey, you need to listen to this band. Oh my God, have you heard this song? You should check them out, type of thing. But it still goes without saying that you stumble on a band and you just forget, or maybe you're just greedy and you don't want anybody else to listen to them or hear them or whatever.
It's a good way of putting it.
But at the end of the day, we're pretty close. But some of the bands that he's going to mention and some of them that I'm going to mention that, I've never heard of his and he's never heard of mine. So, and that's the entire point of this podcast is, hopefully.
I'm not going to guide you here, but I am going to kind of dovetail that together with Raw, because just the other day you sent me a message and said, hey, this band Raw, go check them out. This is a song by them.
Right.
Really awesome stuff. And oddly enough, I'd actually heard a cover song of a Police song that they did, and I hadn't really listened to anything else.
Right.
A guy I was going to play guitar with wanted me to learn it so we could play it, and I listened to it, and I thought, this is really good. That the guy's got a good voice, the good music, and then out of the blue, you send me a list of, hey, check out Raw, check out this, check out this song, and this guy playing acoustic. So I just want to dovetail it into that.
Yeah, that was you want to. Well, that's not first on my list, but it's definitely on my list. Was Raw. Songs like "Do You Call My Name" is what stuck out to me first. But they're I'd say eclectic. They use a lot of like almost Middle Eastern type of feel. I mean, I don't know much about the band itself other than I like the music. But he seems to be Middle Eastern or something along those lines. To see him or to hear him speak, but they're like you said. I mean, this is one of those things where I wanted to open people, but I don't want to like explain why I like them, because I want people to listen or check them out, and if they don't like them, that's cool. If they do, like, wow, that's really great. But I don't want to like you said, I don't want to force an opinion or lead people down a path that, what I like about them. I mean, I kind of wanted this to be like a sort of gray, like, hey, this band Raw, you should check them out, and then go on to the next one, not kind of get intricate about why. I mean, this is just me. I mean, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 10 or 11, 12 bands that you may or may not have heard of, but I'm more of a, hey, you should check this band out, and people walk away from me, and I'm like, I check the band out, I'm like, oh, that band sucks, or what do they see in them? Or like, wow, I can't believe I've never heard this band before feeling. Because I like that kind of initial shock, or that, like, surprise. It's almost like, it's almost like Christmas. It's like a present. It's like, wow. Yeah. Because, and I'm going to use a real quick example, not to interrupt you,
sure.
but
no, go ahead.
we had moved down here to Florida in 1984. In 1987, every summer we would go back to where we were born and raised in Ohio, mid northwest Ohio, farm country. I went in 1987. We went back, and I was upstairs in my best friend's bedroom, and he's like, "Oh, you got to hear this song." He was a big comic book geek, and he played "I'm the Law" by Anthrax, and it's about Judge Dredd, the comic Judge Dredd. And from that second on, I had to have everything and anything and everything involving Anthrax.
Well, no, but I think you're also making another point that I hadn't really thought about, but you're choosing which particular song to tell. When you say,
Yes.
"Hey, go listen to this band," it's not, "Hey, go listen to this band." It's, "Hey, go listen to."
Right.
With Hum, I don't point people to Stars because they know it. It's, "Hey, go listen to Ironclad Lou."
Right.
It's not, "Hey, go check out this band." It's always a song that it might not be their greatest, but it's what attracted you to them.
Exactly.
Or you might just pick the one that's the best song that they've got.
No, exactly. And the bands that I picked, I think they have a lot of good songs. Much like you just said,
Yep.
there's a handful, whether it's an entire album or multiple albums. You just like the band, or the band pulled you in, and then you started exploring, and you're like, wow, this, because with me, I have a short, ADD, if you will. I mean, if it's like that song's like, that's all right, and then you play the next song, it's like, wow, that song really blows, and then I have trouble. And if I go to a third song, it's like, well, that's not really that great either. I immediately stop. I hate to say the term, I don't want to waste my time, but it's like, I try to give any band a fair shake, and you and I have used the Arctic Monkeys to an extent. You were like, "Oh, you got to check this band out," and I'm like, I heard "Do You Want to" or "Do I Want to Know?"
Well,
I'm like, "Wow, that's really great," and then I listened to several more. I'm like, "It's not what I'm." But I really dig that song, but the band's not what I'm into.
But I think that's exactly what we're saying, though, is we've attracted ourselves or attached ourselves to these bands because we didn't find just a song. Like,
sure.
Stars is a great song by Hum, and it's probably going to be played on the radio for a long time. But I didn't just pick up an album and go, well, Stars is okay. I mean, it's great. I love that song, but the rest of our stuff is blah, whatever. We kind of had this pre-conversation again the other day where we talked about we didn't want to make one-hit wonders like EMF. They had one song, and if you listen to the rest of that album, personally for me, it was
horrific.
Yeah, it was just really bad. So Chumbawamba is another one that what other song off there was even remotely something that I could listen to.
And this was also tough because, I mean, finding bands that have, or being turned on to bands that have a lot of good music that aren't popular necessarily, is not as easy as it sounds.
No,
I mean, but in this day and age, there's a flood. Like you said, you're finding 1994 LPs from garage bands in Tampa, Florida on Spotify. It's a lot easier nowadays than it was to get turned on to new music, because before you'd have had to go buy the album or whatever, and you're like, damn it, I wasted $29 on a vinyl that's garbage. I bought EMF's cassette, and there's one song on it, and I have to keep rewinding it. Or
No, that's a good point, and I'll kind of tie that into the next one. I'm not going to go to lie yet, but tie the whole idea of a full album and somebody that's never heard of it. A album I've listened to for years is called Imperial Drag, and I remember I met this girl at I was working at I think it was one of the sub shops I was working at, Limpy's. But she was kind of an out there girl, and she was a nice girl, but I didn't understand her music. But she gave me this cassette one day. Yeah, I said cassette. Of a band called Imperial Drag. They're kind of like a cross between, I don't know, 80s hair and a little bit of punk and a little bit of I don't want to say '80s pop, but kind of that mix of that sound. And I latched onto it, and I listened to the whole album, like front to back. I will put it on and listen to it, and we've talked about this episode for later on, but it's hard for me to put a song from this album on without listening to the entire thing. I immediately want to just start at one and go all the way to the end.
Right.
But it's a band that I've become attached to. They had a hit, A Boy or a Girl was, or Zodiac Sign. One of the two was actually played on the radio for a little bit at the time. But like a lot of those bands in the 80s, 90s, and even early 2000s, they got one or two songs played and then they just fell off. And it wasn't because of popularity. It wasn't because of writing good music. It was more just because they just didn't have the push from the record companies, because the industry was, fluctuating so much at that time. So, right. But yeah, that was kind of one of mine that I'd hit on. That was, again, all the stuff's going to be on the list. So,
right. One of my is a little, well, I wouldn't say more recent. Audio Vent was huge for me. They had a minor radio success with The Energy, which to me is exquisite. I mean, I love the song. That song, it was one of those songs like, wow, I need to see what else this band is doing. And looking down, and there's the first album is where The Energy is on. It's I wouldn't say lackluster, but the second album they really shine. It really. I mean, I was really impressed at the difference. Same sound, but just amped up. I mean, more, bigger, better, faster, more. I mean, it was very, very more refined, more polished, and a lot better. A lot of times I like bands' initial release because it's on the cheap and the production's not as good and it's raw and it's decent. But sometimes the second album can be over polished, but I think that's not the case. The sophomore release for them was very, very good. The entire album, like I said, it's really good, and Audio Vent is one that's always stuck out to me, that I listen to a lot. I mean, I have a Pandora station, and I go back to them a lot because it's well written, and the band is same lineup since they started, and have gelled well, and they're just a good rock and roll band, and it's one I would suggest to check out.
Yeah, I'll tie that back into good rock and roll band with Four Horsemen. We both found them. I think around
well, you
the same
turned
time.
me on to them because I was, and I'm not going to steal your thunder, but go ahead.
No, I think it's both of our thunder on this one, because again, as soon as I turn you on to them, it's like, how do I explain them? It's like harder AC/DC. I mean, I know that sounds weird to say it that way, but
that's probably as close as you'll get.
Yeah, it was it was kind of like the tail end of hair metal mixed with southern, throw a little southern rock in, and then,
some metal and some
and mix it up with some AC/DC, and you got this band that Tired Wings is just I can listen to the opening of that song.
You just said the word and it gave me goosebumps. I mean, I'm not kidding.
It opens with slide guitar, man. I mean, how slide electric guitar in the opening, and but just hearing the opening to that song.
Anybody listening to this podcast, if you don't at least go to YouTube and get Tired Wings, the Four Horsemen, Tired Wings. Take that in, drink that in this morning. I mean, it's basically rock and roll, and with an extra dose of Jack Daniels and bar smoke, and it will change your life.
Yeah, and I think
if you like rock and roll and you don't like that song, you don't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, no, it's agreed 100%. But again, it's one of those albums that I don't. there might be one song that I could, fast forward on, but most of the songs on that album are just, they're 4-on-the-floor rock, and they're done really well. And, it's a shame that bands like this just get overlooked. And, since we've kind of alluded to it, I'll jump on Lie. Just Lie, Lie. It's a band that I think we went together, right? Did we go see them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we went to a place called the Brass Mug in Tampa, Florida.
I still have the CD, and I think you bought a shirt even.
I did. The shirt kind of died just about 5 years ago. I kept it for way too long, but
we were engrossed with this local band. Yeah, it was.
And so this band was kind of early grunge.
I'd say it was like mega. I was 94. I mean, I know it was 94, and it was important. It was right dead center in the middle of grunge, I think.
Well, I think more their sound was kind of sounded like the early grunge sound. Yeah. Like if you listen to the difference between Bleach and Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, there's a distinct difference. It's still Nirvana, but Bleach was a lot more raw, a lot more
That's what I said about the first album. It's a lot less production messed up.
Right, and I think that's probably where the album. Is it Molly, Mark, and Mason? Something
Madison.
Like that? Madison. That first album with theirs was really raw, and there's some fun stuff on it. There's some funny stuff on it, but for the most part, their rock stuff on there it was amazing. In fact, I actually still play one of the riffs to one of their songs when I'm warming up on guitar, because it was so influential for me at the time. But it's just one of those lost bands that just got washed under. Sure. And they were fantastic. Well, they were great showmanship, great writers, great music, and so to find them on Spotify was my Christmas gift. I said something to you before we started that I got a gift last night when I looked on Spotify that a band we've been looking for forever is actually on there.
You know what kills me? I remember this plain as day in the song Douse.
Yeah.
The bass player actually bounced the singing mic off. He was actually striking his bass chords with the microphone, and it made this euphoric sound that if you listen to that song, you'll know it's the beginning of his boom 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 boom, but he was using the stand-up singing mic to strum his bass with, and it made this sound that, like, I don't know how the building didn't implode, because the reverb between the mic and the amplifier on his bass was almost like fighting for airspace, and I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was the most incredible thing I saw on stage.
Well, give me one of yours, because I know we share Lie, we share Four Horsemen. Give me something that I don't know.
Authority Zero.
Well, that's one I know, but
okay. Well, I'll come back to that. How about Sunna?
Now that one I don't know.
Sunna, Sunna.
Okay.
I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. They had a song that got a little airplay called Power Struggle. And
I might know these guys. Go ahead, keep going.
No, I mean, and again, much like much like Audio Van, I heard this song and I'm like, wow, I need to see what else these guys are doing, because it drew me in, because it was grungy. It was probably late 90s, maybe early 2000s, but it had a Soundgarden feel. It wasn't quite grunge. It wasn't quite metal. It was just right in the middle, but it was very, I'm more of a low, grumbly, gallopy, more bass-driven rock than Steve Vai or I don't know how to more than Van Halen style. I mean, how Van Halen uses the lower part of the fretboard, to accomplish the big solos and stuff like that. I like that music, but I'm more of that really gritty, dirty Four Horsemen, Tired Wings. The chords, the power chords that they use, on the upper part of the fretboard, and I like that type more than the higher tuned rock and metal.
Right.
But to me, they're just, I mean, like you said, it's just a good growly rock band. I mean, and it's well written, it's well produced, it's well written, and again, I mean, I'm struggling not to go into putting too much of my, what you need to look for, what you need to listen to. I mean, I would prefer people just to start at Power Struggle.
Yeah.
And then you see what else they have, because I really think a lot of people, I mean, if people dig any of the bands that I've ever brought up, that's going to be right there on the top 10 of your list after a quick listen, because they're very but one you probably never even if you've heard of them, the X's.
No.
Never heard of the X's.
I don't think.
My Goddess is a song that turned me on to them. They actually came up on Pandora. Like, I think I had Shuffle on Pandora, and they came up for some reason. I don't know who or what they related it to, but they're more of a mid-late 90s. I guarantee you, if anybody listens to any of the bands that I say, you're going to think, wow, they all sound alike.
What's one of the songs?
My Goddess.
Oh, right. You just said that.
They're, and it is because I guess I listen to what I like. I don't know how else to put it, but when I hear songs that are different by a different band that sound like what I like listening to, then I delve in a lot further.
How do you spell the name of the band?
EXIES.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
And but very good.
No, well, I was going to say, I think that's what we wanted to do, is we wanted to share a little bit of what drew us into some of these bands.
Right.
But we didn't want to give them too much. We were just kind of give them the idea of what the band is, how it affected us, where it kind of sits in history, and then give them maybe a song and then let them go. And, I'm dying to listen to this stuff too. Like you said, a lot of stuff on my list might not be something you've ever heard.
Right.
And I'm finding that, some of the stuff on your list I haven't heard either, but I'm dying to jump into the Spotify list when we get done. But
absolutely. I
think I'll grab one more from the past, and then I'll start. Actually, you know what? I lied. You mentioned Pandora, pulling up a song. I listen to some weird independent music every once in a while, just to more hear what's out there and see what's going on with music,
right?
Currently. And I was listening to Silver Sun Pickups, and a band called Manchester Orchestra came up, and I stopped what I was doing to listen to the song once it started, because it was amazing. The name of the song is, I think it's just I've Got Friends, and listening to that song, I went, wow, this is something I want to listen to. Pulled up the album it was on, put it on, what's the other one I use? Amazon Prime. Right. And just was mind blown. I mean, every song on it was, the voice is one of those ones where you've kind of got to be, it's acquired taste. But if you like that type of sound, like that Silver Sun Pickup sound, Manchester Orchestra is an amazing band. And again, I've kind of had them on in the background repeat for a while, where I can just put on the album and listen to every single song on it. It's well written. The music is good. I just love it.
I will tie quickly into one that probably maybe a lot have even heard of, is Corrosion of Conformity. And I warned you, that's kind of like the Four Horsemen thing for Craig and I. That
yeah.
But
understatement.
But they're still making music, and they're still making amazing music. They just released an album, I think this year, if I'm not mistaken. If not this year, 2016. But they I know for a fact you and I bought the same album. I think Deliverance is the name of the album.
Yep.
We bought it out of the bin at the Sound Exchange. I think it was like 99 cents. They had like 3 or 4 or 6 of them in the rack there. And like, this is only 99 cents. What is this? And we took it home, and I think
Wow.
our bedrooms were like across the hall from each other, and we both played it. Like, we looked across, like, I remember like looking through the door. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
What is
Let's how do we explain them? Are they
I
I hate to say this, but is it Metallica light?
No, 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 no.
I mean, cuz they're heavy and they're hard, but
they're so dark and so I don't know. His voice, the tone of the guitar and his voice work.
well, Pepper Keenan, I mean, there's not much to say about him. He's a distinct voice in that genre of music. So
Absolutely. But I mean, the song Deliverance is the one that I picked off of, that title, same title of the album. But that album is one that I don't just play the whole album. I play the whole album on repeat. I mean, it just starts over, and if it keeps going, whenever I stop needing music, I'll turn it off. But that whole album is unconscious. I mean, to me, it's probably a top 3 album of all time in my.
But what song do we start people with on that
one? Deliverance.
I know, but so what was the song that was off there that was actually played? It was
the Albatross and Clean My
Albatross
Wounds were 2 that got a lot of radio. Clean My Wounds is thoroughly impressive. Albatross is a little bit melancholy.
Yeah.
But pick one. Go to the if you go wherever you find music, go to Corrosion of Conformity, the album of Deliverance, and pick one. Any one of them. There's a couple instrumentals even on there. Pearls Before Swine. Migraine is impressive.
Yeah.
But there's not a bad song on the album. Even the instrumentals are like, wow, these are really cool.
Yeah.
But
not
the
traditional instrumentals.
The song Deliverance is impressive, and is it Signor Limpio or whatever? It's
it is.
Really, like, no drums. It's like just the guitar and almost like him whining. I don't even know how to put it. It's like this surreal, but it all works together so amazingly that song, that band, and that album. If you haven't heard them and you like rock and roll, please check them out. And I'm going to stop with that.
Yeah. Well, again, you mentioned that we tied some of our sounds into this, and, we're bringing up stuff that we both listen to a lot, but we were also wide open to music at the time.
Absolutely.
And like, I'll throw another older one out, but Love and Rockets was something that at the time I was listening to. I was trying to go back and regrow the punk roots for me,
right?
And listening to Misfits and Sex Pistols and all that kind of stuff. I had a friend of mine that turned me on to Misfits, and I dove in. And there's so much stuff that they've produced out there but it's pretty high profile as an underground sound. But on them, I found Love and Rockets, and Love and Rockets is something that again, that album is just the whole thing for me. In fact, in listening to it to put some stuff on Spotify, there was a couple songs on there that as soon as I played them, I'm sitting in my bedroom with my headphones on in the dark, thinking about what school's going to be like tomorrow. And this song just epitomizes what I felt at that time. And it was so wild. But actually the opening and closing of the podcast is a clip from one of their songs, Motorcycle, which again was just, I could put that on at any point in time and just listen to the song and go through it and love every second of that. So.
Now, did they do Alive, the song Alive?
Yeah, Alive was their song that was on the radio.
Right. Okay. I mean, and I'm going to delve in, but I knew that song, and I enjoy that song, but I never really gave them much of a shake after that. So that's one I'm gonna.
Yeah, Motorcycle is the one that if I was gonna point people out to, I would either send them to that, or if Alive's okay. It's kind of more poppy than it is punk, but the rest of the album is really, there's some experimental stuff on there, but there's a lot of good, punk and stuff. And I'm going to jump on to two bands real quick, and I'll kind of let you finish it out.
Okay.
I got into Corrosion of Conformity. Kind of was another one of those bands that shaped a lot of bands to come sooner or later.
Absolutely.
And two ones I listened to are High on Fire and The Sword. And it's kind of like this dark metal or sludge metal or whatever they want to call it, or dark metal. It's not heavy metal, but it's really just kind of a dark feeling sound. And both of those bands are kind of like a combination of Black Sabbath and Corrosion of Conformity, and maybe even a little Metallica thrown in there on some of them. But The Sword in particular, High on Fire is okay. It's a little more, I don't know. I just kind of do it for angry music listening. But The Sword is a little bit different because they actually take like the entire Dungeons and Dragons or Magic the Gathering genre and put it into music. They sing about, famous axes and, wizards and warlocks from this time frame and snow wolves. And it's really, I like the music in general anyways. And I like the singer, and I like it kind of feels like that old Sabbath, like early Sabbath stuff with, with Ozzy in frontman and doing the dark stuff. Like Fairies Wear Boots is another one I kind of compare it to. But The Sword is one of those bands that I latch onto, and man, to pull one of their songs up, the song names are so weird. I'm not sure that saying one is fine. I think honestly anything off their, I think it's their second or third album would probably be fine to pick up. Let me see if I actually listed anything on there. Yeah, I would say like Winter Wolves is probably a good one. But stuff like that is that they have that Iron Swan is another one of their songs that it just makes you feel like you're in the medieval ages or fighting on the field with a battle axe or something. I love that type of music. So
right. Well, I want to double back to
Sure.
to your punk roots, and
Sure.
I mentioned that I started, but you said you'd heard of them. Authority Zero is a band of mine that I've seen 4 times in concert and have been blown away every single time, and just they're punk. I mean, they are straight up late 80s, early 90s skate punk. I mean, the lead singer even has a deck company called Earth Skateboards that he started and is in business with or whatever. I mean, they are, when I think like skater punk, this is, I mean, not like DRI or any of those, but I mean, Authority Zero is a more polished, and they have it's a lot better writing, it's a lot better production, it's a lot better musicians, it's a lot better singer than most of that 80s punk stuff. And I'm saying that, with love, of course, because that's what I loved about 80s and early 90s punk was the rawness of it, and the just blatant disregard for music in general, but it sounded good.
Yeah, because you just described grunge too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but Authority Zero for me, there's a song called Courage, that lyrically and musically it's not punk. But then if you listen to any of their other stuff, I mean, it is hardcore, hard to understand. But they do this, I guess it's a cover of the Rattlin' Bog that it gets faster the entire song. It speeds up the entire song to where, I mean, you can barely understand him. And at all of that being said, if you want to know me, Authority Zero is kind of like my go-to band now. And it has been for probably the last 10 or 15 years. I mean, they literally just released an album in this summer. I would say August, maybe July, August, September, somewhere in there. No, October. I think they released it in October. It's really recent, broadcasting to the nations, but it's really great. But anything, that album and back, they speak to the working man. They speak to but it's hard rock and punk at its best. I really feel that way, and I am trying to influence on that because, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But to me, that band's, if you haven't heard them, you really need to. That was like on the top of my list.
Well, I'll tell you, I don't want to make this too long, but
sure,
because we could talk about bands like this forever. But what I want to throw just names of bands real quick.
Sure.
That I had on my list, but we didn't get to.
Fair enough. I've got 3 or 4, so go ahead.
Yep. And I'll let you do the thing, and then I still have a parting shot for you too.
Fair enough.
So Lillian Axe, Dream of a Lifetime.
Awesome.
I know. Dangerous Toys. We talked about them. They were semi-mainstream, but
teasing and
pleasing,
yeah,
right?
That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Man, I think I got the wrong house.
Exactly.
That just gave me goosebumps too. I have to listen to that out.
Yeah, that was like Aerosmith meets the Four Horsemen.
Maybe, yeah. That's pretty close.
The Refreshments, Banditos. Love that song, but the album is really good too.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, they're on the list. Was that it on me? Well, I put on Bleeding Hearts, and that's going to be a very, very personal shot to people in Tampa and St. Pete at the time we were there in the late '80s, early '90s stuff.
Right.
But, yeah, fantastic group of guys that made really good music that never got heard of. So
right.
But shoot.
Vintage Trouble.
Oh yeah.
I actually work with a guy that was my welding partner, and his first cousin plays bass, and he's for years he's like, dude, you got to hear this band. My cousin plays in this band. I'm like, yeah, shut up, whatever. Everybody's cousin plays in a band. My brother played in a band. That's basically the attitude I had. He's like, no, seriously. He's like, okay, fine. You've never listened to the band. He's like, they're in town. They're in St. Pete. Come with me. You can meet them, and we'll go to the concert. I'm like, I'm okay. I'm down for. So I went home that night. I'm like, I can't show up to see a band or meet a band that I've never even heard. They're blues rock, completely bluesy rock. But they opened for AC/DC on their summer tour last summer. They've opened for Bon Jovi, The Who. But I saw them in the local 662 in St. Pete, which you can't even turn around. You have to go outside to change your mind type of bar. And I've seen them 3 or 4 times since then. They're absolutely outstanding. Get on that.
What song?
Blues Hand Me Down.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
It is staggering, but pick one. They're literally anything that you play. They've got fast. They've got slow. Not All Right by Me. If you listen to that song, it's very slow, very acoustic, very now. It is what's happening in this world right now. Please listen to Not All Right by Me if you listen to Vintage Trouble. Then the next one I had, staying in the kind of the blues genre, was Gary Clark Jr.
Interesting.
I don't think a lot of people are on board with that because it's more of a Stevie Ray Vaughan feel, solo but bluesy, a lot of guitar. I mean, very Olympian athlete on his guitar. I would pick the song Numb for something that's really gritty, and Church, which the song Church literally gives me goosebumps and brings tears to my eyes, because the guy he's playing the drum, he's playing the guitar, he's playing the harmonica, and he's singing at the same time. And anybody that does 4 things that well at the same time, musically, gets my vote 100% of the time. And the last 2, Urge Overkill.
Oh yeah.
They had a song called Sister Havana back in the 90s.
Yeah.
that was like really groovy, but get further into them, they're really eclectic and rad. I always dug them for some reason. I still, when I hear them, I have to listen to more than just one song.
Right.
And strangely enough, Veruca Salt.
Yeah, that's that whole girl genre thing was big for me too, and my wife's big into that type of music as well. So yeah, the album's actually really good. You're correct.
It is. Seether was their kind of big radio catch. The song Seether, not the band.
Right.
But
The Breeders was another one from that time
and I still listen to The Last Splash a lot. Speaking of the Breeders, I do still listen to that album too. But Veruca Salt always stuck out as one that didn't get as much attention, and they were good.
The albums again were really. I've heard a lot of those. Like my wife listened to that kind of eclectic female singer stuff, and bands like the Wonder stuff that she listens to as well.
Sure.
That made one album, and there's a couple good songs. For me, it's not as good as some of the stuff I listed today, but still had some good stuff on it. But I think the parting shot today will be one that will shock you again, and bring you around, and you can kind of talk about where it's set in your history. But Stormtroopers of Death.
Why would you do that? That's basically the beginning of Anthrax.
It is, and but I wanted your opinion on the music first. But we'll let the cat out of the bag that it was a lot of the members from that SOD, as they were called, SOD at the time.
Billy Milano, basically the band is what turned into Anthrax after Joey Belladonna came in. But Stormtroopers of the SOD, and I know you probably heard that cassette more than any three people should have. Because they actually set a Guinness record with the fastest song. That's something that you have to experience. I don't even know if it's possible to explain them. I don't specifically know our audience, but the song "Pussy Whipped." I'm sorry, but it's the funniest punk metal song you will ever listen to in your entire life. It was back, probably 81, 2, maybe. Maybe even earlier than that.
Keep talking, I'll look it up.
But it was, literally 5 idiots just to see how fast they could play, to see how funny they could make music, to make music. And I use, you can't see it, I'm using air quotes to say the word music liberally. It is.
So 85 was.
Really? It was that late?
Yeah.
So
for me, honestly, you're right. I probably actually heard that song more than I should have, or the album more than I should have. But songs like Milano Mosh.
Yeah. But
were actually aggressive songs that I really could dig into.
But if you want to, like, Milk is literally about a song about he didn't have milk for his cereal. It's not
right. Exactly.
That's you can't hide that. But there are songs that are. I don't know if there is anything more politically incorrect than F the Middle East.
Right. Speak English or die.
That's what I was going to allude to. That album is probably the least politically correct album you will ever listen to.
When we were kids listening to this stuff, we were looking for anything we could absorb at the time, and a lot of times we overlooked a lot of those. The things that today aren't politically correct, and they probably weren't back then either. But it wasn't as widespread as it is now.
And with my, hand over my heart, I truly cringe listening to it now. You want to say a parting shot? When I was a kid, I thought it was awesome because I couldn't rebel enough. You know what I mean? I couldn't hate everything enough. I couldn't, middle finger society enough. And SOD was my release, my outlet, my, why I never got arrested. It was because I listened to SOD because they did it for me. That got that aggression out. That got that ignorance out of my system, I guess. And I don't know. It was just.
And I think I'll tie today's up with that. That we do this because we love talking about music,
absolutely.
but it was because it shaped a lot of what we were, and we weren't unique in that.
Oh no,
we weren't unique in being angry and wanting to rebel and wanting to listen to the things that our parents didn't want us to listen to. That goes on every generation.
Still in vogue. Yeah.
It's and I have a daughter that wanted to listen to a band that I thought was extremely inappropriate, and I had to stop and go, that's exactly what I did. To the T, what I did. I listened to it because my parents didn't like it, but I found out that I liked it, and I found out that it held a specific spot in time for me.
Yeah.
And that's what we do this for. We kind of share. So, I'm going to put the post up. I'm going to put the link up to the Spotify list, but you guys send us emails. Send us emails to musicmusingfeedback@gmail.com. Tell us what you think. Tell us the songs that you want us to listen to.
Or the bands, I mean,
the bands that you want us to listen to. The songs that that touch you in a certain way that nobody's ever heard of.
Absolutely.
And we'll post this on Facebook. We'll put it out there. You can't miss our last names: Sybert, first name Craig's, first name George. Whatever. You can find us pretty much on any social media. I'm on Twitter out there as well. I'll try and post this on Twitter. I got a lot of followers out there that are listening to it from my Twitter connections. But
Facebook or Instagram. I mean, I'm on any of that stuff. I mean, Instagram's more, whatever. But if you need help finding us, send hit the email link and say how do I find you guys again? And
exactly, and this will go up directly on my blog post on I got a WordPress blog post that I've been putting this out on. But again, I copy it to everything. So, guys, send us musicmusingfeedback@gmail.com. And brother, Merry Christmas. Yep. Thanks for the gifts. I'll be listening to them the rest of the afternoon.
Absolutely. I got a list of stuff I got to track down too. First and foremost, I'm listening to the Four Horsemen. I don't really care what anybody thinks.
Well, but Merry Christmas, everybody out there. This is our gift to you guys, and
Absolutely.
We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
Enjoy, and we'll talk to you guys in the new year.
Yep. Take care, brother.
See ya.